When you're in a race to deliver value, the first instinct is always to just push harder, right? Never stop. But what if the real secret to going faster was actually to schedule a pause? Today, we're going to break down one of the most counterintuitive and honestly one of the most powerful ideas in the Scaled Agile framework, the innovation and planning iteration.
This quote from Don Reynoldson, man, it just cuts right to the heart of the whole problem. We're always told to keep everyone busy all the time. 100% utilization, that sounds like peak efficiency, doesn't it? But in reality, it just creates this super rigid system with absolutely zero room to adapt. One tiny hiccup, one unexpected problem, and the whole plan just starts to fall apart.
So this really makes you wonder, have we been looking at productivity all wrong this whole time? What if building in a buffer, a planned strategic pause, is the real key to becoming more predictable, more innovative, and ultimately, even faster?
This is exactly what we call the 100% utilization trap. See, when your teams are scheduled to full capacity, there's just no room for error. There's no time for learning, and there is definitely no space for creativity. And it leads directly to burnout, missed deadlines, and that constant feeling of just being behind. Before you know it, trust in the team's ability to deliver just starts to fade away, both inside the team and with your stakeholders.
Okay, before we go any farther, let's just quickly define a key term you're going to hear me say a lot, PI. In the SAFe world, that stands for planning interval. The easiest way to think about it is like a big container for work, usually about 8 to 12 weeks long, that a whole group of teams uses to plan and deliver value together.
So how do you escape that utilization trap we were just talking about? Well, SAFe's answer is what I love to call the strategic pit stop. Think about it. In a car race, you don't win by running the engine at redline until it blows up. No, you win by planning these strategic stops to refuel, change the tires, and make critical adjustments.
And this is our pit stop, the innovation and planning, or IP iteration. It's a dedicated 2-week period that happens at the end of every single PI. And listen, it is not an afterthought. It's a scheduled, absolutely essential part of the rhythm. It gives you a safety buffer and dedicated time for all those crucial activities that go way beyond just cranking out features.
Okay, so what actually happens during this time? Let's be clear. It is not a 2-week vacation. Not at all. The IP iteration is a period of focused, planned work that is absolutely critical for keeping the flow of value going. Let's take a look at what a typical calendar might look like. A really healthy IP iteration is just packed with value. You'll often see it kick off with innovation stuff, like hackathons, where teams get to explore new possibilities. That's usually followed by time for education, letting people sharpen their skills. And then the whole thing culminates in 2 massive events. First, the Inspect and Adapt workshop to learn from the PI that just ended, and finally, the big PI planning event to get ready for the one that's about to start.
Let's just zoom in on these big anchor events for a second. The PI system demo, that's a huge moment where all the teams show off their integrated work from the entire quarter. It's awesome. Then the Inspect and Adapt workshop is where everybody gets real and honest about what to improve. And of course, PI planning sets the entire course for the next wave of delivery. Altogether, these events create this powerful, steady business rhythm.
So what do you actually get from protecting this time? What are the tangible benefits? This isn't just some nice-to-have thing. It delivers what I call a triple threat of some seriously powerful advantages for any organization. First, and this is the one the business loves, it dramatically increases your predictability. The IP iteration acts as a buffer, kind of like a guard band. So when unexpected things pop up during the PI, and they always do, this buffer gives teams the space to handle them without blowing up their commitments. This stops work from spilling over into the next PI, and it builds so much trust with leadership because suddenly teams start reliably hitting their objectives. Second, it's a direct investment in innovation. Look, great ideas don't just happen on command. You have to create the space for them. The IP iteration gives you that protected time for things like hackathons, exploring new tech, and just creative problem solving. This is where your next breakthrough product idea or that game-changing internal tool might come from. It proves that a strategic pause is what actually fuels your future growth.
And third, it drives relentless improvement. This is the perfect time to finally tackle that nagging technical debt, or to improve your development infrastructure, or maybe learn a new tool. When teams are constantly sharpening their skills and their tools, they just get better and more efficient. And this has a huge impact on morale too. It leads to happier, more engaged employees and way less burnout.
But there is a catch. The IP iteration is incredibly powerful when you use it the right way, but it is also incredibly easy to misuse. There's one major pitfall that I see teams and whole organizations fall into over and over again. Okay, this is probably the single most important thing to get right. The IP iteration is a buffer for the unexpected, not a safety net for bad planning. If your teams are constantly using this time just to finish overdue work from the PI, the system is broken. Innovation gets tossed out the window, improvement is ignored, and the iteration just becomes a crutch for bad habits, and that completely defeats the whole purpose.
So if you're going to remember one thing from all of this, let it be this. The IP iteration is not a break from work. It is the work. It's the strategic, essential work that makes all the other development possible and sustainable in the long run.
Which really brings us all the way back to you and your team. So ask yourself this. If you had protected time, with full permission to innovate, to learn, and to improve, what's the one big problem you would finally have the space to solve? The answer to that? Well, it might just change everything.